Sometimes when I'm feeling a bit directionless and a bit unguided in like what I should do next in my, journey to self-improvement, to, better myself. What I often do in these situations is I just, set some time aside. Maybe sometimes I set a timer, but I just sit down and think. Literally that simple. I sit down, I think, and it's not exactly like meditation. It's different because when you're doing meditation, your aim is to try and limit the amount of stuff you're thinking about. You're trying to focus on building focus instead of, being burdened by other thoughts and stuff like that. But this practice that I do, it helps me dive deep into me and become aware of things about myself which I wouldn't have been aware of if I hadn't started to do this. And I've done this for quite a while now. Sometimes when I'm struggling to fall asleep, this is one of the things that helps me, drift off and sleep with a lot more clarity. It's a good practice. But where I'm going with this is a lot of times during this, what I find helped me get on the same path or find that next path when I'm doing these sorts of things are tapping into the things which I'm afraid to do. And I've made a video in the past about fears and why your fears and the things that you don't want to do are, such a gift, because it is your brain's way of unconsciously telling you where our next stage of improvement lies, how we can get better from here. It's unconscious, and obviously we don't want to do them, but that's what brings them to our attention. The fact that we don't want to do them allows us to sit on them for longer, and they kind of burden us until we do them. But this is kind of a different type of video. I want to just list a couple things which I've thought about and personally have helped me become inspired to do more, to be more. It's a couple thought experiments which I've had with myself during these times of sitting down and thinking, which have produced, more guidance for me and, allowed me to see where I want to go next a lot clearer and get closer to what my purpose is. Hopefully something like this can resonate with other people as well. And yeah, I'm gonna just list a couple things. Now, this isn't something I exactly thought of myself, but it's inspired by Marcus Aurelius, great Stoic, one of the best thinkers and writers ever, in my opinion. But he has this phrase called memento mori, and that translates to remember death. It may seem a bit morbid and a bit frightening to, have that as a constant reminder for a lot of people. And naturally, it is, an intrinsic fear for everyone, not just humans, but I'm sure, all organisms and whatnot. But it's so vital to keep things like that in the back of your mind, because it is true. We have one chance at becoming the best version of ourselves. We have one chance at really creating a legacy, not just for ourselves, but for our kin, the people that will follow us, be inspired by us, whether that be the next generation or whether that be the people we, make a difference upon through, our actions, our words. And through this, constant remembrance, through this reminder, it helps you to overcome a lot of other intrinsic fears which may hold you back from doing the things which you want to do, like the fear of humiliation, or some social anxieties, fear of failure, stuff like that. These things can hold you back, but knowing that we only have one chance at this, and eventually everything that you're going to do doesn't really, couldn't amount to something if you don't act upon it, because you're going to lose it all eventually. So you might as well just do whatever you like, because right here, right now, in this life, this is the only chance you'll get at creating something long lasting, at creating something worthwhile for other people to enjoy based off of the positive effects that you had upon them in the time that you had here. And this encourages you to put 100% into all things that you're doing throughout your day, because it's all going to be lost eventually. And because as scary as it is to think about, eventually you'll get to that age and you'll start thinking, oh man, I'm running out of time. I haven't got much left, I haven't got any ambition, the things I could have acted upon in my younger days, they're slipping away from me. And, this kind of links into that same fear of regret, regret of the things you never acted upon, the opportunities you didn't take, the people you didn't speak to, that girl you didn't ask out, all this stuff, it lingers and continues to linger until it becomes overwhelming. And the worst thing about it is you can't do anything about that once you haven't done anything about it. So it's awful to think about, because obviously during, around my age, that stuff, you can conceptualize it, you can understand it, but it doesn't hit you as hard as it does whenever you're 20 years older. Because then you think, oh shit, I could have been someone, I could have had her, I could have worked towards this, I should have took that opportunity. And your mind, it crumbles, it can crumble. A lot of people, that stuff could lead them to an early grave. So don't let that be you. Remember, you only get one chance at this stuff, so every single chance you get, you need to take. This movie, this isn't like super on topic, but there's this great movie, and you wouldn't think it would be so inspirational, but I think it's called Yes Man, and I'll put like a clip of it here. But it's got Jim Carrey in it, and basically this guy, he's challenged by like one of his friends to just say yes to everything for a certain amount of time, and like he starts doing it, and like everything just starts going great for him. He gets this girl, he gets like a bunch of new friends, he like arranges this person's marriage, he gets a bunch of things, like his life starts going so much better whenever he starts taking every opportunity that's handed to him. And I think sometimes we need to be that type of guy. We need to just say, what, screw it, I'm gonna go join this flipping association, or I'm gonna go try out a new club, I'm gonna join this, I'm gonna get a new hobby, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go cold approach that girl. Like, we need to override our fear sometimes, in the hopes of getting a reward from it, because 9 times out of 10 you do, and even if you don't, you're still learning something. Whenever your fear has held out to be true, you realize, okay, all right, cool, I'm not doing that again. But that's a very rare occurrence. I remember, I can't think of the last time where I was anxious to do something and it ended up being worse than I thought it was. Like, there's never really been a time where that's been true. All the times I've done something and I've been super anxious to do it beforehand, it has never been any worse than I thought it had been. If anything, the activity itself has been wholly enjoyable. I was super scared of roller coasters for a long time, and I kept watching videos and I was like, how could people enjoy this stuff? How could people willingly like drop down from like thousands of feet and enjoy it? But then I went on one myself and I was like, this thrill, this fear, this like anticipation is so enjoyable. And hey, look at me now, I enjoy roller coasters. But that was through chasing my fear. That was through, remembering, hey, I only got one chance at this. I might as well throw myself at it, see if I enjoy it. If I do, beautiful. If I don't, beautiful. That way I've learned something regardless. So you've got to remember, that regret is awful. Your time is limited. Your legacy and the stuff that you build in this life, that's what matters most. You've got one chance to build that stuff. You don't get a second one. So, you need to put all your eggs in one basket sometimes. Don't think about balancing out things too much, because greatness is usually limited to a field. That's why you don't have the greatest basketballer and baseball player the same person. It's never that easy. You need to go all in sometimes. You need to not be afraid to do that. Goggins speaks on this a lot. You can't be a balanced champion. You have to be wholly relentless in chasing this one thing, taking all the opportunities which are going to help you achieve that goal, that dream, reach that next stage. And once you start doing that, once you start getting in that flow of doing that, things will just start coming to you. But that's just some food for thought, some fears that could inspire you, some fears that could push you to do even better and greater things in your life if you truly utilize them. Alongside, thinking over these topics that I've just brought up, I also recommend doing this practice, which I also do. Just whenever you're feeling a little directionless, take some time, sit down for a bit and just ponder on anything that comes to your mind first. The things that you start to think about, regardless of how small they are, they can lead to bigger things which will give you bigger and better understandings and push you to, start enjoying your hard work and give you that much more purpose in your life. But yeah, that's it from me today. Again, hopefully you took something of value, apply it in your life. Subscribe for more content, all that good stuff. And yeah, strive for greatness and don't be a vape puffing nerd.